How are you?
Good, good. You down doing anything?
Busy. I was just in California, came back from.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Are we every now and then, or is this
It
for
is.
work or for
No,
business?
my brother lives, he has a house out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Palm Springs, it was 115.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Then I'm going to call the Bike and Run Advisory Committee to order and ask that we could please call the roll.
Terry Witt.
Here.
Joe Stacy.
Here.
Bruce Hendricks. Dan Palmer. Here. Mike Kammerer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, good. Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the March 30th, 2017 meeting minutes. Is there any additions or changes to the minutes that need to be made? Or should I ask for a motion, I guess, maybe a motion to approve those first?
Yeah, do that. And
All right.
So moved.
All right, a second?
I'll second.
Okay. The motion has been moved and seconded, moved by Terry Witt, seconded by Joe Stasi. Any changes or any revisions that need to be?
No changes or revisions, but I was pointing out to Jim and his staff, I want to put it in the record, I've seen a lot of minutes over the years. These are really put together nice. I especially like the bolded, where you can go right to things as you're reading through various coverage, so just a compliment.
Yeah, very good.
I agree.
Very good.
thank you.
All right. Nothing else on that item. Third item on the agenda is the Complete Streets Policy Update.
Sorry, we didn't vote on that, the minutes.
Oh, vote on the,
Thank you,
getting
Council.
ahead of myself a little bit. Okay.
All right, Terry Witt.
Yes.
Joe Stacy.
Yes.
Dan Palmer.
Yes.
Mike Kammerer.
Yes.
Approved.
Sorry about that, Jim. All right, now moving on to, we got something?
Yeah, well, just a question. You know, at the last meeting, after we approved the minutes, you inserted a town hall type of section. So I was wondering, that was a good idea. I think it worked really well. Our members of the audience can speak if they wish.
Yeah, I guess we could do that, as long as you keep you can get up and make comments, as long as you keep them to 3 minutes, just like we would at a board meeting. So if you have anything you want to say or anything else, I'm going to shut you off at 3 minutes, but 3 minutes would be great.
And the other good thing about the last meeting was you encouraged some participation during some of our conversations.
My name is John Getz, Bartlett resident for 13 years. And my comment, it really stems from a discussion that happened at last meeting regarding the idea of planning. And I see on the agenda today, there's something about the bike maintenance plans, and that's great. What about doing a plans for potential bike paths or running paths? Or maintaining a list of projects, not maintenance related, but more like how do we really make Bartlett connected from a bike path. I mean, things like, I know Terry's always wanted a path down Stearns. I think a path down Route 59 would be great. I've got a laundry list, but I mean, I don't want to go through it now unless you want me to, but what about maintaining a list like that? Is that something that this committee would be tasked with doing and maintaining and building and keeping?
I'll comment on
I
that.
saw
Ken?
something.
No?
I thought I saw something in here about that.
I mean, if I remember, it
Grants?
was probably a
Ongoing
few
grants?
meetings ago, I think we talked about like assessing what we have so far and what we're like, if we have paths that really need redoing, we need to probably do those first. And then once we kind of have an assessment of where we're at, that's kind of what we've been working towards.
Okay.
And we had the map that shows like, big question was who owns what paths or who maintains it. So once we figured that out, I think we're working on assessing the quality of all the paths, and then once we know that and we know what we can do, then we also look to the future of what else can we, what other paths can we add that we don't have.
Okay, yeah, it's clear by looking through this that the current map and that the process there was great.
Yeah.
But I saw that there's like a 10-year plan. So where does the future paths lie? Is that 10 years out, I guess?
Well,
So,
Now I'll comment about that. From the board standpoint, there's no money. So the first thing we have to do is, like Joe said, we have to assess what paths need to be repaired, who owns the paths, and then find the money to start doing that. And then, as you're talking about, come up with the money to actually have a plan. Because what we don't realize is you think that you just get together and say, oh, let's make up a plan. But most of the time it involves a consultant. Consultant has, charges, there's fees, there's all sorts of hidden costs that you never think about that are going to be involved with making a legitimate plan for the village that we simply don't have the money for. And I'm hopeful, and I'm trying to work different ways of taking money from one area to another, if we can do it, if the board, other than me, will approve it, to shift some fuel tax money, let's say, from maybe parking lots to bike paths, if we can do it. Now, that's just me, that's the focus I want to push, but I don't know that the board will pass it or change things. And so we have to talk about that. We're doing that in our strategic planning committee meeting. We have another one of those coming up on July 8th that we plan to talk about things like that. It's not that it's a bad idea. It's a great idea to have a bike plan, but there's no sense in trying to do things if you can't fund it, and that's where we're at right now. So what we can do is come up with small amounts of money to actually do something instead of making a plan up that really costs money that it's just a written plan. It really hasn't changed anything. It just says, okay, we're going to do this in the future, which is great.
Yeah.
But I think from a village standpoint, we need to fix paths, we need to widen them, we need to expand them, and we need to come up with some money to do that. And if we can do that, then and get those paths taken care of, then in the future, I think we'll certainly be able to come together with a bike plan.
Okay. And maybe the word plan on my part was a poor choice of words. A plan assumes that you're going to, a fixed starting and a fixed end, things like that. Maybe more of, and I guess my point is to go to the village board asking for money for a new path, you kind of have to know where that new path, where the desire for that new path is. And that's where my point is, if we had a list,
Like a feasibility?
not even feasibility, just desired.
We currently
Yeah.
have a bike path plan map
Okay.
that shows where those links are.
Okay.
So like right now, if someone came in for a property to do a development on one of the areas where we see a bike path that the village has proposed, we put the onus on the developer and require that they install it. So we do have a plan that we follow. So that's where the paths are. A lot of that is developer-driven. At the time of development, they put the path in as part of the development approval. So we do have a plan in place, and that was, the first plan was originally done as in the last comp plan in the 1990s, and then when we did the West Bartlett Road corridor plan, and that was adopted, that also incorporated some additional bike path locations.
And I understand that, and we talked about that in the past, where if a subdivision was to be built, they put a path on West Bartlett, and I think we talked about on Naperville. So that's great, but what about like Stearns Road or 59? What about going to IDOT or whoever maintains that road, saying, hey, we would like to put a path here, because we want to connect neighborhoods?
So I mean, like DuPage County does have like their maps, we meet with them to go through theirs. We do work with the other communities around through Northwest Municipal Conference,
Yeah.
Kane and Kendall.
Forest Preserve.
Yeah, so I mean, we do meet with them and make sure everyone's plans are cohesive, because that does, you have to have, for like grant funding, you have to have a plan showing that everybody is supporting it
Yeah.
in order to get the funds. So we do work on that.
Okay. I guess, is there a way to see all those wishes in one place? Or is there a, instead
I
of
mean,
going to the county and the township and the, Bartlett and the developer plan?
I mean, the developer plan is pretty much the Bartlett plan.
Okay.
And then, like, DuPage has their additionals. We try to reflect those and have those as dashed, like, regional plans.
Okay.
Or something like that, future. So we do have that.
Okay.
Ours is on the website, right?
Yes.
Yeah, our website.
Yeah.
And then the county forest preserve and the DuPage used to have a bike planner, and they don't anymore. So we kind of lost that.
Okay.
And so I bet we have their plans, we integrate them with grants. The forest preserve regularly comes to us and says, hey, we want to do this link. What do you think? And we support them. And the last time there's what they call the Northwest Regional Plan.
Yep.
And we made that link between where the high school's at, the township put in the link through.
I ride
Ship
it
Road.
twice a week.
Yeah, and then we put in the link all the way to 59, plus we paid for the ped crossing at 59, and then we put in the bike route, I guess signage, if you will, along Woodland Hills Drive, because the residents didn't want us to designate their paths as bike lanes, and then now that is next in line is going further west to try to take that to the Prairie Path, and the county Forest Preserve is having a difficult time to determine that link between where Forest Preserve Drive is and the Prairie Path, because you go through the Forest Preserve, a lot of wetlands. They talked about going further down at Munger to Army Trail and going that way, so that, they're investigating that. But that would be the next really major link to a regional trail that we're working on.
Okay, well, I guess, and I'm probably at the end of my time, I know. My final thought was, instead of the county coming to us, or the Forest Preserve coming to us saying, we'd like to do this, what do you think? What about we go to them and say, we would like a path here?
Well, we have done that in the past, you know, so the Hawk Hollow Bridge, that's a good example of saying, hey, we want to see that connection. So they, you know, all those paths that go down South Bartlett Road, under the railroad tracks and everything, that was us, and then the ones to the high school, that was us going to the Forest Preserve saying, we want to make these links, and that's how they got there. We worked with them to get those there. There isn't really, the one we're focusing on is really in their jurisdiction, is that link to the Prairie Path.
Yeah, and that's gonna be great when it's done, can't wait.
And then we want to make another link up West Bartlett Road, but you got, we're to 25, and then South Elgin's got to take it to the Prairie Path. So, yeah.
Now, this list we have, this is basically a maintenance list. There's not any unbuilt projects on here, correct?
Correct.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
We
Yeah,
appreciate that. It's always good to hear. I mean, we're trying to make some changes, but, you know, wheels of change turn slow, and we got to sometimes just, you know, move it the best we can.
And we are, and I think we are headed in that direction. We want to do that, and it's just, we got to just keep baby steps.
All right, Tom.
I don't have much to say. Tom Steele, resident of Bartlett. I don't have much to say. First, I'm using the Schick Road path, and I really appreciate that work and what it took to get it done. You too, Terry, thank you. So, however, as you get closer to 59, it's overgrown terribly.
Okay.
And I know it's not your jurisdiction, but I bet you could make a phone call.
Actually, when it gets closer to 59, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh,
That side, yeah.
so fix tomorrow then. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, just as an aside, I'm not suggesting they don't. I used to walk Schick, Mayflower, Gerber, all that as a regular route before I moved. And I had real good success with the new PW director using the Go request. It was instantaneous, and there's a record, and there's a... On your phone. I would just take a picture of the problem, and even when it wasn't theirs, they got someone out there. Nice thing I liked about it, there's a record and there's a follow-up, so that it's officially, it's called Go Request.
Yeah. Put that in there.
The cop in me likes documentation.
Right. That's
Right.
another way of putting it in there.
Next thing on the agenda is the Complete Streets Policy Update. We've already brought that before the board and put it into the, well, it was passed by the board as part of the last board meeting. I think it was the last board meeting. And any comments from staff that need to be made, or is that about it?
We just wanted to supply you with the official approved copy for your files.
Okay, good. Any brief comments on that, or any discussion?
I think that was a well-done job by the staff, taking the ball and running with it and making sense out of the whole thing. It's going to be good for Bartlett.
All right, now we're rolling right along into the old new business area. The first thing up is an Invest in Cook grant update, and maybe staff can give us an update on that. I know we've got stuff here, but maybe Tyler, give us the update.
Sure thing. So last time we talked, I wasn't able to make it, but basically the grant was for the West Bartlett Road and Devon Avenue drainage and swale bike path, which looks a little rough. The update we have is we had a conversation, a conference call with the Cook County Highway Department about the project, and Jim was on that, and I think it went pretty well. It
Yeah.
sounded really positive. They asked a lot of good questions. We gave them feedback, and they'll make their decision in their last meeting in July. So that's when we'll be told in August how that went.
And we didn't have an engineer with us, but we answered the engineering questions.
That's right.
There you go. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Any questions pertaining to the Cook County grant update by the board here? All right. Good luck. Yeah. Thanks. Hoping. Bike path maintenance priority list. So this we've been going through here.
So what we did to make this list was we went around, myself and an engineer, and we graded the bike path conditions. We obtained through GIS the length, the width, and we did calculations on exactly which ones are in the worst shape, which ones we can hold off on, and which ones we really don't intend on doing anything to. And so, as you can see, there's the cost all the way to the right of the page, which we're supposed to be split with the Park District about 50-50. They put in, they said of $10,000 a year, and we set aside that much for now. And that gets us about 2,000 feet. It could get a little more if we do the work ourselves. When it's just patching, we can do that and a little bit of the basic stuff, but if it's the grinding and everything, then we'd have to contract that out.
The Struckman paths on the east side of South Bartlett, if you're looking for a year, that was 1991 built.
Oh, right on.
So we come up with a village share of about $141,000 to get some of these projects done. Is that what you guys came up with?
Yeah, and that's today's dollars, so that number is honestly only going to go up,
Only gonna go up.
just due to inflation and,
I think what we're anticipating is, Mike, what you said is to try, when we do into our capital improvement budget, interject some of these path maintenance projects into that with a dollar amount, and then obviously put it in whatever year we think, and as the legend shows, some of them are, you know, higher priorities than others, and, you know, we haven't worked it out with Dan and Public Works yet, but that's what our intent is, as we, and then obviously going to the Park District for their share, and then seeing how much we can do, and, you know, hopefully we can put in a couple of years of path maintenance in this year's capital budget and appropriately subsequent years, because our capital budget goes out 5 years.
So do you think it's appropriate that the Bike and Run Committee would have some input into advising of the amount to be, for the board to put into the budget regarding bike paths? In other words, if it's going to cost us a share of $141,000, should we be going to the board and saying, listen, we need a budget of $150,000 a year? Or is that even the place of a committee like this?
I think yes and no. I think it's yes, it's the place of this committee to make a recommendation on a dollar amount.
Okay.
Asking for $150,000 a year, we'll be done with the project in 2 years. I think it's appropriate to allocate that kind of money in a 5-year capital program, and then obviously it's kind of like our street maintenance program where we were getting a better bang for our buck, so we're able to do more. So as long as the maintenance and prioritization of the paths are in the capital budget, that if we, for some reason, if we have to go out and bid and we get a good price, we can maybe do a little more. But I think it's certainly a purview of this committee to make a recommendation on and putting the path maintenance in the capital budget, and certainly suggesting an amount. But that, with that being said, it's obviously going to have to be spread out over a couple of years. And that's typical with capital improvement projects.
And this spreadsheet has been sent over to the Park District, and they've approved it and agreed to it, at least, not on paper, but they said they were good with it.
I mean, with the strategic planning meeting coming up on next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, it's kind of short to be able to say, hey, this is what the committee came up with, but
Today, it's informational for you to mull over. Obviously, the capital budget comes out in the fall, so certainly that strategic plan, it would be great to have something in that plan, and I think there is some language in those plans in the past.
I think they have a town hall there, too.
Yeah, I don't know. They might.
I do.
I think they do.
I'm serious, if you, it's the best way, talk to people who,
But I think to mull, for us to get, this is a lot of information to absorb. I know we just gave it to you. So, but certainly for something, thinking along the lines, and then when, Dan can, for our next meeting, Dan can kind of give an idea of what would be a good, we kind of set which ones are the best priority and see what kind of dollar amounts he was thinking of. I haven't had the discussion with him. I mean, obviously they put in these dollar amounts, but they're, if you go with the number one priority, I don't know, that's like the red one, is that right? I can't tell the color.
pipeline. It's like an
pipeline.
orangish red.
The
Yeah.
Bartlett Trail.
And what is that, 66,000?
66,000.
Now, if we want to do that in the first year, you're shooting your half of your 150 right away. So that's something that, do we want to take on the big one first, or that's a pretty heavily used path. So it might be that where we'll go first year, and then second year, maybe you put in just the 10,000, That's, juggling those numbers in the capital budget is something that staff would do.
kind of like, maybe Tyler, can you go over this legend and kind of help us understand this a little bit better? I think I understand it, but when you say not included, is it not included because it's owned by other districts, the Forest Preserve or the
Hit the nail on the head, that's exactly right.
or what?
That's exactly right. It's because it's owned by the county, the Forest Preserve, or it's private, or
Okay.
the little Park District ones,
So obviously, when you say like new, they don't need any work.
right.
And then year one, they've only been around for 1 year, is that what you're saying?
No,
That's the first priority.
Yeah, these are
First
the-
year, we'd like to
Sorry,
work on
yeah.
this one.
First year, and so that would be the red, okay, gotcha. All right,
So you can think of the like new as 10-plus years as well, because they'll be good for at
good.
least.
So like new and 10-plus years are all pretty comparable, I see, okay, gotcha.
So the good news is a lot of the paths are in pretty good shape.
Right.
It's just there are some heavily used ones that are needing repairs, so,
And primarily they're on East Stearns Road, right?
right.
Yeah, the thing that got my attention was your real nice presentation on ADA ramps a couple weeks ago. And that really fits in well with bike path maintenance, although I didn't see anything specifically to the bike paths as far as the ADA ramps. But if you go over on Newport, there, all the crossings, because it's an asphalt path and it comes up to the concrete, they all have been sinking 2, 3, 4 inches, which, if you're a bike rider, it's not a big deal, but if you're a little kid or if you're a mom pushing a stroller, it is a big deal. And there's a lot of that category of people on that trail. Notice it. And when I send in comments about specific crossings, I know there's a little asphalt patch, but when you get to the ADA ramp program, I really think that Newport should be pretty high up on the list as far as getting an ADA ramp for crossing all those streets.
We'll note that.
All right, any other comments on the bike path maintenance priority list?
The only thing I would say is, and the not included ones, I understand that, but let's just take like South Bartlett Road between Devon and Stearns. You know, that's a really heavily traveled path because of the library, the community center, all that. If that's not our jurisdiction, or we don't, but did we do some sort of an assessment on that to where we can go back to who, you know, if it's the county or the forest preserve, say, you know, we're maintaining our paths, there's a strong need for, you know, maintaining it. Because I think that path, I'm trying to think, it is a little.
It's about 4 feet wide.
Yeah, and there's spots in there when you get past the horse farm and it kind of zigzags, it's kind of not great. And so if it's not our responsibility, I think we should probably have some sort of a sense of, if they're not policing it, let's police it and try to recommend to them that they make some improvements to it.
I have asked DuPage County if they have any intentions of any bike path remediation or repairs in the near future, and they said due to the budget stuff, they don't right now.
Yeah.
Which isn't really surprising.
Yeah.
But I have brought it to their attention, and I know the Park District has as well, so.
Okay.
You know, I think that's one of the points I think John was trying to bring out is, if we've got a plan, we can go to the county and say, listen, you need to do this to bring that trail up to date. Because you go down that trail and you're pulling a trailer and you're passing somebody going the other way, especially on the curve on that downhill. I mean, I've gone down a couple of times there. I mean, you just do, because it's very narrow and it's crumbling. So I think it's within our right to be a little bit more forceful on some of those issues.
You can always talk to your DuPage County Commissioners, that's what I would say, Terry. Talk to them and see if they can twist their arm.
I do, but you have so much more influence as a trustee.
You'd be surprised, really. I'm not just, people don't pick up the phone and call people. That's why a lot of things never happen. I figure someone else is going to do it.
Okay, moving to the next item, the Kickstand Classic 2, which will be on October 1st, 2017. And it's the bike race agreement, which came before the board as well. A little change this year with the, what do they call the guys that are the Davis Finney riders will be in the ride this year, which should be interesting from the standpoint that they are darn close to professional riders, a lot of these guys, and should be make for some fast riders. Now, we were a little concerned about the course, but we've been assured by the Active Transport Alliance that everything's taken care of and that there'll be a separation between the 200 Davis Finney riders and the rest of us, that shouldn't be any problems. So, by any comments from staff on the bike race?
Pretty much sums it up. You'll see ads getting the registrations out there, the Active Transit put it, we'll have it on our website, they'll start doing promotion. And so that's pretty much where it's at, and we're looking forward to this year's race, which is October 1st.
One of the things we're trying to implement is a hard 12, is it 12 o'clock or 11:30 finish?
12, yeah.
So everybody needs to be done by 12 as a respect to the homeowners in the area that are affected by the race. And so we're going to be watching and waiting to see what happens with that, but this race will be over at noon on that day.
Last year, there were a lot of comments about the age restriction. It was at, what, 16, I think was the youngest? And there was a lot of talk that they were going to lower the age, the parents going with the younger kids to some age, I don't know whether it was 12 or 14, but
They went down to 14 is what I've
I haven't seen
heard.
anything.
It should be out on the website. I just got the ad sent to me today, so I'll look at it and see. I'll send it out to everybody, and Gaby was gonna put it on our website, but I from discussions, I thought they were gonna go down to 14.
Okay, well, that's good.
I'll make a note to send their ad to you guys.
And we were hopeful as a board to get the Alliance to kick in a little bit more, but I think it got our portion lowered by like $200 or something like that. It wasn't
Right.
So,
It is a fundraiser,
there you go.
and it brings people to Bartlett.
Yep. All right, any other comments or concerns or questions regarding the Kickstand Classic? If not, we'll move on to D, the train station bike shelter grant feasibility discussion, and let staff give us an update on that, if there's anything to update us on.
One of my things that I do is I sit on, as an alternate, on the DuPage Mayors and Managers Transportation Committee, which is the funding source for a lot of the regional road projects and that. Our village engineer is the primary, I'm the alternate. So when I go, I talk a lot. And we, years ago, got a grant for putting bike racks at the train station in the downtown. They haven't done it for a while. This year, they put out a call, are any towns interested? So I was there, I spoke up, I said, we're interested. So I'm on the subcommittee. And this example is something that Carl Goldsmith from the village of Lombard is going to pursue for his train station in Lombard. We kind of looked at it preliminarily. We're not committed to it, but we have obviously bike racks at the train station. We thought it'd be an opportunity to maybe add a few more racks and cover them. The grant is a 75-25 grant. We could, you could do racks or scattered around the downtown. That was another option. We haven't finalized anything. We thought we'd bring it to you and get some feedback. I don't believe we have to submit anything for this for another month or two, but it may be even later than that, because I think there's a December 1st award. So it's an IDOT STP grant, Surface Transportation Program. We would be our grant would be submitted along with other towns in DuPage County, and we'd go in as a group. And we were thinking a covered rack, and then maybe covering the existing racks, and then adding some other bike racks in various locations in the downtown. And
What areas would we be covering, or are you?
we haven't gotten that far in terms of actually looking. So far, we've just kind of looked at the train station. Christie, you went and did an inventory. She thinks we have enough racks down there.
I did not say we had enough. I said there were some that were not being utilized.
Yeah.
The instances I went out there and I said there are some bike riders
Right.
that choose to chain their bikes up to the railing as opposed to using some of the empty.
And we'd like,
One guy actually went up and locked his bike to the railing while I was taking pictures of all the empty bike racks.
and we'd like to get away from chaining them to the fence, because obviously that's a safety thing if the fence is gonna deteriorate. And we can't use the west side of the train station either. So how many, there's usually about 20 bikes chained down there roughly.
Total,
Yeah.
at all the.
Yeah, because we took pictures, so.
5 or 6 years ago, I did a Metro Bike Parking Survey for Ride, Illinois. I did from Big Timber all the way to, I don't know, the other side of Itasca, whatever, Wooddale. And it was really pretty interesting. And of course, in Bartlett, we did have lots of bikes chained to the fence, and that's down on the other side. I think you guys have seen it all.
Right.
But we do have bike parking for about 20 bikes. And now that we've got bike parking by the museum, they aren't chaining up against the fence so much.
Right.
So I think that's eliminated. But the reason that they chained against the fence was that the original bike parking for the Metro was way out of sight.
Yeah, we brought it
I've
closer.
seen it lately, but there used to be a bike stolen every couple of weeks, but I haven't noticed if there's any been stolen this year or not.
I don't know about this, when those racks that we put up a couple of years ago, they used to have the combination locker, and there was only 10 of them there, so people didn't like using those. We felt with the canopy, if you canopy there, you'll get more use of the racks.
I agree.
And then we would see, like, is there an opportunity to throw a few more interspersed in there? And then with canopying it, you would tend to use it more.
I think so, I agree.
And if there's any other locations that you can come up with, we can certainly
yeah.
get other
Yeah,
racks.
and we're not necessarily saying
Yeah.
this is the size that we want.
Right.
We're just saying this was an example.
Yeah, you
of
put a bike rack in one parking spot, you can put about 10 bicycles where one car goes. And you put that in front of a couple of different restaurants, and all of a sudden, we got people riding their bikes into downtown,
Right.
to restaurants. You
So-
know, it doesn't all have to be cars.
I think there would be the issue of aesthetics, though. I mean, how these things look and where they're
They're
placed.
beautiful.
Yeah, it depends on where they're at and what their views are blocking and which businesses they're in front
Oh,
of
we
and
got
all
all
the things that
kinds
go
of-
with
We
it.
got all kinds of bike racks.
But I'm just saying, I get you from that standpoint, Terry, but there'll be questions about aesthetics, I'm telling you.
They're not.
Yeah, we have to keep them on public right-of-way. That's one of the caveats, because obviously, you know, you can't, if you put it on private property, it's a grant for private benefit. So they'd be public racks. We like the ones that are at the train station. We could get, there's different versions of those. So we'll ultimately come up with an amount we think we can apply for. And then obviously, like with any grant, this will go into the capital budget and we have to share 25%. I've asked the Park District also, they're interested, so we'll get some feedback from them, so. So anyway, that's what our intent is. If you think it's a good idea, we want to still move forward with that.
Good, good.
Schaumburg even did lockers. They've got lockers up there.
Some towns are looking at lockers.
And they subsidize it a lot. I mean, so they absorb a big expense in Schaumburg, and then it's $20 for a year. They get a key, and
I didn't want to go into the bike locker business, so we were figured if you get your own locker, hook it up.
if we're not getting bikes stolen like we used to, and I think having them in much higher visibility places,
Right.
and getting the roofs, maybe a video camera at some point if theft becomes a problem, but, yeah.
Video camera's the way to go to help control theft.
We have, I'm trying to think now over there, there's like one or two shelters that are there. Is that where they pay for parking, or is that like a storm shelter when they're waiting for the train? There's one on the
I'll let Christie answer that.
north side, and there's a small one on the south side
Yeah, that's like for waiting for the train.
of the train.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever see people in there.
I would think only in what, like, if it's raining, people would be in there, or if it's maybe cold or
Are those-
snowing, they might go in there. I think for the most part, people don't use those.
Yeah. Do we put those in, or is that a Metro thing?
That years ago, when Metro put those in, this was when that old station was still being used as the station. And because that, obviously, a small space filled up pretty fast, as Christie said, in the cold weather.
Yeah.
So they put their old Metro shelter in there. There used to be a bigger one, if you recall, right west of where the current station is. It was probably, I don't know how, it was like 2 or 3 times the size of those. And those are remnants from that old one. And they got to be a maintenance problem, and Metro's never taken those down. I'm not taking them down. We don't have really jurisdiction there.
Yeah.
So someday they're a little deteriorated.
Okay,
And that's in Metro's right away. I
Right,
believe it's not in ours.
Metro right away.
all right, thanks for that update. I'm assuming no other comments, no other questions? All right, next thing on the agenda is the IDNR grant update. Once again, back to staff.
So we were awarded back in 2014 funding for the bike path links to connect Glen Kohler Fields and Westridge to the Pate Phillips State Park links. We finished up our first extension of that grant. We have just been contacted by our new grant administrator from IDNR, who asked if we wanted to extend it an additional year. I've worked with Paula Schumacher, the acting village administrator, to get that paperwork submitted, and so that project is now extended until June 30th of 2018. So we're still sending in our quarterly reports saying the funds are still on hold per the governor, and hoping that at some point we actually get a budget and we can move forward with that project.
And this is a capital project
Yes.
for us. It's in our capital. Yeah, it's basically budget. State budget approves it, IDNR may get the money and award it to us.
Good.
Yeah.
So we're keeping it there.
All right. Well, that was good to know. Any other items that the board has to bring up or has
I've
comments
got a few
about?
things.
Okay.
There's a copy to make it a little bit easier. You know, given the fact that the village doesn't have any money,
No, that's not that's an incorrect statement, Terry.
Oh.
The village has money, the
Oh.
bike committee has no money.
the bike committee has no money, so I thought, well, what are some things we could possibly do that don't cost a lot of money, or maybe zero money? So I started with our strategic objectives, which is facilitate activities that foster a sense of community. And the action steps under that are to integrate new bike paths into existing local and regional trails and to work cooperatively with the park district, et cetera. And then I said, well, what is our charge? And our charge is to create new bike and run path plan recommendations. That doesn't cost too much money to do a recommendation. So I thought, well, what could some of the action steps be? Well, we've got a 1992 bike plan that really was very good in 1992. And some of it has been accomplished, you know, pretty good, but it's 2017. And we have, as a village board, has endorsed the Wayne Township Bike Plan, which includes portions of the village of Bartlett, at least in the DuPage County portion. And since we endorsed it, I thought, well, why don't we at least take what we've endorsed and update the 2004 bike path map that we've got and show what could be as a step towards creating a full bike plan. So I think one of the benefits from beginning to get a bike plan is that, Christy, you'd mentioned about grant money. Well, money is scarce, as we all know. And when we go out and apply for grants, it's extremely competitive. And even grants that are not specifically for bike paths, but things that are for maybe water or sewer or public health, those kind of grants, when we have a bike path plan that touches that, it gives us one more reason for the grantor of those funds to say, hey, you know, Bartlett's got a reason to use this money. They've already got a plan in place, and it will advance public health, it will advance sewer projects, it will advance all these other things. For example, the Beaver Pond flood control. I mean, that was just the perfect time to put a path over there on Stearns Road, and we missed that because we did not have a plan in place to say, hey, while you're putting that sewer in, now, we all know about Flint, Michigan. When they tear up their pipes and they put the new ones down, they're putting new roads and new paths right over the top. They're not wasting any time. They are in a severe situation, of course, but they are planning ahead because they are putting a plan in place to activate those kinds of things. So there's a good reason to make a bike plan. And we got DuPage County covered, and we put a lot of emphasis into that, a lot of information to Wayne Township. Dan was there, Christy was there, so they're all good ideas that are on that part, and it wouldn't take that much to begin to do the same process. We do not need high-priced consultants to do this. We have a community of people that can come together and say, this is where we would like to have a bike path. Now, it might be 10 years down the road because we know that wonderful bridge that just got built over County Farm Road, the work for that started in 1984. So if we don't start these projects and these plans and say, this is what we want to do, this is where we're going, we're never going to get there. Those people that started in 1984, man, they were really bummed out by the year 2000. They kept plugging away, and here we are. And that was the loneliest trail in the county. I've ridden that every week since it's been built. There are 20 or 30 people using that path. They are couples, husbands and wives, who I swear had 10 inches of dust on their saddles because they never took the bikes out of the garage because they never had any place to go. People are using that trail because there was a plan and they kept pounding on it. And it finally came. So if we don't begin somewhere, and we've got a place to start with this Wayne Township bike plan to get it going. And I think there's some urgency. And I would recommend that we meet every couple of months saying, okay, here's how we think this could work, and get ourselves in a position to have a town hall meeting over what people think, so that we could then eventually go to the village board and do what they asked us to do, as to come with recommendations. But we aren't going to do it at the current pace. The other thing, the next thing is, I think we should be formally inviting the Park District to these meetings, for them to come and participate at some level, so that when we talk with them, they can be in the partnership. I mean, they own half of them, and we're looking for money. If they're part of the plan, who knows? Everybody might be able to come up with an extra buck every once in a while when we need to push something. So, and working with the Park District is in the strategic objectives. Longer term, bicycle-friendly community. Hey, we can get there if we have a bike plan. Lots of things going on with that. So in preparing, on the backside, in preparing a draft bike plan, the West Bartlett corridor, yeah, that got made. I put some recommendations in back in 2012, and in fact, one of them got accepted in the Wayne Township plan. I said, why have a $10 million path in the plan? It doesn't make sense. Not when it doesn't do anything. Let's take that $10 million and spread it over some other place. Because obviously we don't have $10 million in the first place, so why even have that in the plan? So, you know, some sense needs to be brought into these kinds of things. Stearns Road Trail. The other week, the county had their bike to work meeting, and I met with John Loper, and he's putting in the public record my recommendation here that they add a side path on the north side of Stearns, 4/10 of a mile. 4/10 of a mile. That's all you need, so that people can ride all the way from Lake Street across County Farm Road on Stearns, all the way to Munger. And when you get to Munger, there's a traffic signal, and on the other side, there's a 6-foot wide side path, or shoulder, I should say, on both sides. Now, you won't get little kids, but more and more adults will be riding there. But, hey, maybe if we could get a letter from our village president to Chairman Cronin saying, hey, we really would like the county to put this side path in. Look at all the equipment we got that's going on Brewster Creek. Look at all the equipment that's being done in the intersection at 59 and Stearns. It's not like you gotta get a fleet of vehicles to come in here and plow up 4/10 of a mile. I also asked for a 3/10 of a mile on the south side, but if we got the north side, that 4/10 of a mile would go a long way to getting people on the east side bicycling to the state park, and people like out there in Westridge, You know, we're gonna put in all those trails to get through the state park, to get to, Stearns Road. We want those people riding to Bartlett. We don't want them riding to St. Charles and South Elgin and spending their money there. We want them come into our own town, spend your money in your own town. You can do it when you have trail connections. A lot of people drive their cars out to the state park and ride from there because they don't want to ride on Stearns Road. Oh. And for John's sake, if we get the village president to write that letter, he might put a little side note in there. And please street sweep by the CN railroad tracks. That stones are killing me. So that's that one. Brewster Creek Business Path. And that's an ideal place for a walking path. What greater thing for a business to say, hey, people, at lunch hour, go out there and walk around the path, have a nice scenic thing. And if it ties into the whole bike path system, it's great. We have till 4:30. Okay, moving on down, repair existing trails. Hey, I just thought we want to work with other governmental units. Wayne Township has a very good highway commissioner who's been in road construction his whole life. Maybe to take some of the load off of our own public works, maybe there might be something there to create some kind of partnership to work on path repairs so that our guys can focus on those other things. And then getting after the county to resurface some roads. If you've ridden down Stearns Road from South Bartlett to 59, you know that you got to ride in the middle of the lane because there's just nothing but potholes on the curb. So that could use some fixing. Or if you're on South Bartlett Road going down to Schick and the shoulder runs out and it's like garbage, you know, it's terrible. I think we got to get off after the county to do some fixing. And then figure out routes to the schools and the parks and the forest preserves, wayfinding signs. You know, you see them in other towns. They're all over. We can put up a few signs. If we had a bike path plan, you could just begin it by putting signs up and say, hey, the library's over that way and it's 0.6 of a mile. I mean, you don't have to build anything other than put the sign up just to get the people with the idea that, oh, hey, I could ride my bike over there. Safety signs, trail crossings. Holy cow. Man, those right turn cars, they never stop. Man, once a month, yesterday I had a near collision at Stearns and South Bartlett Road because the kid, he didn't even stop. He just slid right through and he was halfway through the thing when I yelled, he even heard me with the windows down. I hope nobody else heard what I said, but people do not stop. Enough people do not stop on right turns. So we need to put some trail crossings. Right? Everybody that goes and shops in Jewel, our one and only store, cars come out of there. How many stop before that trail crossing? I watch, not too many. And it's kind of hard to see the people coming down because you got a lot of little evergreens there. So people are more interested in the cross-car traffic than they are the riders on the trails. So these are the things that a bike plan can address. Budgets. And I thought, hey, why don't we advertise by putting little mileage markers with the Kickstand Classic logo around the loop every half mile? Have a little Kickstand logo. Talk to Active Trans, see if we can make it official, get people to realize, hey, Bartlett's a car place. Now that will cost a little bit of money. It was just a thought. So, if you've been out on the trails, you've noticed that the county has been putting up some really nice bike map references. If we had a bike plan, and we put 4 up strategically around the village, one at Metra to welcome bicycle riders, bikes on Metra. We put one out at the state park, where 40, 50,000 people ride past and never give us a glance. We put a sign out there. We put one either by Firehouse number 2 or down by South Bartlett and Schick, and say, hey, you're in Bartlett, right over here, buy a hot dog. Right over here, buy a taco. Right over here, fill up your water bottle. And we're gonna get, with a well-defined system, we're gonna get 40,000 people coming through Bartlett. It's effectively doubling our population. That could be 40,000 more hamburgers, 40,000 more French fries, 40,000 more Cokes for our businesses. At $5, $6 a piece times 40,000, that's a few extra dollars that we wouldn't have been earning. So those signs could really be a good way to let people know where they can go. Put one by Jim Jensen. I think we put 4 around here, we would cover the whole area. Web page maps, mentioned about the county. Although we don't have a county trail coordinator, Sidney Kenyon's been assigned that kind of responsibility oh, and by the way, you're also going to take care of trails. He told me that they're getting ready to do online route mapping. So if we had a plan.
That's on their website now.
Yeah, but he said they're doing something even more. So if we had a bike plan, we could make sure that if anybody went to the county, they would also definitely see where we are in Bartlett. And events. I think we could do more with events. It doesn't really have anything to do with the bike plan, but we got the Apple Orchard Run, the Lions Labor Day Dash to promote. During National Night Out, there's a skateboard bash. It's very successful that I think we could help promote somewhere. We have Bike with the Village on Tuesday night, which is about 8 police officers and 1 family every year. So we could do something to promote that a little bit better, I think, to help that. We're doing great on the Kickstand Classic. The cyclocross is only 2 weeks later at Sunrise Park. We've got about 3,000 or 4,000 people that come for that, but the people who live in Bartlett don't know it, unless they drive close by and they see cars parked up and down the streets. But cyclocross is a really big deal, and it's right here in Bartlett. We have one of the rides, October 22nd this year. So, and then coming down towards the end, the complete streets policy. There's several things that we need to measure, and Joe, you were right on the money on that. In the last meeting when we talked about is how do you measure your success? Well, bike racks is one thing that we wanted to. So I think some kind of commitment for some number of racks. I just said 10, but we need to somehow do a benchmark on that. And Metro's really the perfect place to start. But maybe, I don't know, do we have a parking ordinance? Anything? Yeah, so many cars per parking lot space or something like that. Well,
Metro lots, you mean?
no, just any like Home Depots. One time there was supposed to be a bank in the parking lot or something. And there's how many cars would it take away? Well, I think maybe we need to throw a little something in there about bike parking. I remember one time the grandkids that we stopped at Banbury Fair and Bruce says, a lot of times those kids, they come and they just throw their bicycles all over the place and nobody can get in my door. I said, well, that's a public parking spot. It'd be nice to put a little bike rack right there in Danbury Fair, because
I'll do that, and then I'll tell them that you recommended that.
I do. And stop.
That might be a spot we'll put away.
And stop in for an ice cream cone.
We just, I think with this bike rack grant, that's what we need, is where do you think we should put them? You
Right
know,
there.
that's kind of, other than at the metro station, so that could be
Bannerments.
included, yeah.
Put one in front,
Yeah, that's ours.
put one in front of J.C.'s, put one
You can't
down
do it
at
on
But we have to do it on private, we have to do it on public,
Danbury's parking lot's public,
right?
Yeah.
because it's ours.
Okay, but the
Yeah.
street in front of J.C.'s is public.
But like
The,
that-
Yeah.
Savory was in the Savory, and there were 10 bicyclists from the Fox Valley Bike Club stopped in for breakfast. They piled all their bikes between the evergreens and the wall there. I was like, wow. And then they sat at a booth so they could watch their bikes. But bike parking there, bike parking in every outlet would be a great place to put them. But I think with a bike committee taking an active role in getting, we can satisfy complete streets policy. We can begin to satisfy other things. And IDOT projects, I know they got a complete streets policy, but I'm sorry, they got a strategic regional arterial policy, and it's like get cars as fast as they can through Bartlett on Illinois 59. You know, our green light crossings are, I swear I could get from Army Trail to West Bartlett Road faster than I can get across 59 at Stearns. You know, I mean, it's,
They're gonna be installing those ped heads, though.
pardon?
With this new project, they're gonna be installing those.
Well, we hope so.
No, that was part of the plan, that's part of their engineering
I
plan.
know, I'm hoping, and now we got Army Trail is gonna get a project.
Yeah, they're all gonna get,
Bartlett's gonna get a project, but still, it's cars on 59. So, I think we need to, we got a CAG, a Community Action Group meeting for 59 in Lake Street, but, man, we should be fighting for one of those at all the intersections.
you're not gonna get them for the other ones.
Well, yeah, it's already too late. And that's the thing, once their plans are laid, you can't do much. So, finally, at the end of my rant here, transit-oriented development downtown, I think we need to create a slow zone.
Working on that 25 mile per hour.
Good.
If Dan was here as a former police chief, he would probably disagree with you at that, because we've had several conversations that basically said, as he said, as a former police chief, that posting signs that lower the speed limit really have very little effect on slowing people down.
And he is absolutely correct, because you need more than just a sign to tell people to go slow. You want to just walk across the street over here to get a cup of coffee, and the cars are going 30 miles an hour, there's no crosswalk, people aren't going to walk. If you guys go across the street, you go down to the stoplight to cross? No, nobody does. Wouldn't it be nice to have a crosswalk between here and there?
We're working on the 25, and then the TOD plan identified the different crosswalks. We're gonna start at the train station first.
Good.
So we've got a traffic guy that's coming out and looking at that. And he's gonna,
Terry, with crosswalk traffic calming, I personally recommended that the police department come up with these temporary radar signs that flash when a car is going so fast and can be moved from place to place.
That's a good idea, too.
And so we are working on doing things like this with traffic calming.
Good.
So it's not like anything, it's not like nothing's being done.
Well, no, but education, let the public know. I mean, because you're right, posting a 25-mile-an-hour sign by itself won't do anything. But what you're suggesting is, hey, the speed limit here is 25 miles an hour, and by the way, you're going 35, you know? It at least starts putting people on notice that you're going just a little bit too fast. Right. I mean, my favorite is pulling out of Devon onto West Bartlett Road. That one's a real challenge. Those cars are coming down the hill at 40 miles an hour around the corner, and they're supposed to make a quick turn at 20, to get into a 25-mile-an-hour zone, and you're sitting there trying to get into traffic, and people are heading at you at 35 miles an hour.
Let's see, we've already lowered that speed limit on West Bartlett Road from 45 to 40.
That's right.
And down.
And now let's-
Eventually, you'll have it down to nothing, Terry.
That's right, that's right, that's right. Now, that's it, right? Mike, you're catching on.
It was only that easy, Terry.
It's not easy. It's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm saying if you have a plan and we create a bike plan, and I would suggest that we begin meeting more frequently to say, hey, what are we going to do for a bike plan? Instead of just talking about it. I mean, if we don't start meeting and saying, okay, here's how we can do a plan. Will we ever get one down 59? Ooh,
Are you talking
that's a
about a
tough one.
plan or a map? Because those are totally different. Well, not totally, they're
Well,
integrated.
start laying it out on a map.
Because we have that.
Well, we don't have, we got one from 2004.
Still not all built out. We have the plan map, and we're,
1992.
Do you have a lot of changes from the 2004 map?
Oh, yeah. A ton. I brought them out in 2012, I sent them.
Oh,
But they're still in my, on my computer, they're not anywhere else.
I feel like we
I
talked
got lots of plans that I've sent to the village over the years.
yeah, no, I feel like we might just need to adopt it. I feel like we have some of these on our map. We just might not have adopted it.
Yeah, well, that's why I say, if we have some time and we can sit down and talk through and say, okay, here's what the map could look like, then we'll say, oh, okay, we'll have the routes like here, and then maybe we can put a couple of wayfinding signs that say, hey, the library's 0.6 of a mile, or the pool is 3.5 miles, or whatever the sign says. But
Ultimately, isn't that covered in the complete streets and that things like that we'll be doing anyway?
well, yeah, but if you don't have a plan, how do you know where to put them? It's complete streets is just it's a kind of an umbrella.
we installed wayfinding signs in the downtown, and, those are for, directing people to the shops and the different places to go. But they're not bike trail sign maps. They're just wayfinding for shoppers and people visiting in the downtown. But those cost money. I mean, they're not free.
I'm not saying that.
I think
that
we
they don't
spent about
cost- I'm not saying that they
$80,000
don't cost money.
Right.
But when we got 40,000 people coming through Bartlett on regional trails, and we've got a sign that says, hey, there are facilities for you in 1.5 miles that away. So instead of them going that away, they come in. That's how we get the 40,000 hamburgers, the 40,000 french fries, and the 40,000 Cokes. That's what pays for those few wayfinding signs that we need to direct people to where we want them to go. And besides, as the car is driving along the road and they see the sign and says, oh, it's only 1.5 miles to the library, they benefit from that sign too. Everybody gets a little bit of benefit for, I got hundreds of them.
I think I have it in my files. I remember seeing this.
Oh, okay. But, and things have even changed since 2012. I mean, that was just my
Right.
ideas back then. I wasn't even thinking about Brewster Creek Park and all the beautiful things we could do with that and Spitzer Road. Although Spitzer Road might be on there. But anyway, those things do cost money, but with a plan in place, talking about them, we can begin to town hall and go to the village board. And then the village board might say, hey, you know what? Maybe we can slide a couple extra $1,000 over for this particular project because we've got the plan. And when we go out for a grant, like I say, for public health or anything else, they say, hey, that Bartlett, they're complete streets, they got a plan.
they've got this, they've got that. But they need some money, so let's give them some money. You know, I mean, how else do we get anything?
That's how we try.
That, I know that,
Try to,
and I'm just saying, the bike committee should be actively helping you go out there.
we have, we have applied for grants. Unfortunately, the state encouraged us, and then they pulled the money off the table.
Yeah, I know.
Tyler's applied for this Cook County grant that just we became aware of for a bike path segment.
Yeah.
And we've worked with the county when we can, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that we don't, I'm just saying that the bike committee ought to take a more active role in trying to get this plan, because it helps you do your job, really, and it helps justify to the village board why they ought to put a couple extra $1,000 our way. Because our residents are gonna sell more hot dogs, hamburgers, tacos, and ice cream cones. Now, Banbury Fairs, you get, put a bike parking there, and Bruce is gonna be going, wow, I've never sold so many ice cream cones in my whole life.
We're gonna try. If we get the grant, that's where one of them's going.
All right.
But I mean, those are the kinds of things that feedback for this grant that we need,
Yeah.
So all good comments, Terry. I think things that we can certainly take under advisement. I certainly don't know that now is the time to move them forward as a motion or anything of that nature.
No.
And some things we can discuss. We've already said, as I think is it John had asked earlier, that we have no objections to having a bicycle plan as we start in the beginning and move forward with it. I think if we can come to the board and ask for money to repair bike paths, and once we have some actual things that we've accomplished under our belt, coming and saying, here's the plan for what we want to do isn't a bad idea. I just think it's a little premature at this point in time to be jumping forward with it. And ultimately, there will be more money spent on things than we can afford. And I just think if we can get some of the little things done, we're much better off position.
I'm not disagreeing with maintenance on the bike path. I mean, we need it, as the resident from Clare Oaks last meeting mentioned. Hey, when your bones start getting old, those bumps are bumpy.
Sure.
I mean, I usually ride on the road because it's smoother, it's quicker, and I don't have to argue with cars. I got the right of way, boom. When I'm on a path, all bets are off. You gotta really be careful on those paths. And if you're going bump, it's difficult. So I'm not against the maintenance, and I think that that's a good plan that Tyler's put together. I think the ADA plan is a good one, and I think there can be a little bit of synergy between the two of them to get some benefit on the bike paths. But I also believe that we should meet a little bit more frequently and start on a map in working with you, because, you got the GIS. Oh, you got the power in your fingers to throw out there and say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if this worked like this? And then when we go to a town hall meeting, we get, oh yeah, but did you know that? And people think that they're ugly bike racks. Well, then get a brighter bicycle and ride around an orange tree or something.
Those bike racks we have downtown, those are nice. Those
Yeah, they're
at the
okay.
train
They're
station. Yeah.
There's
lots of different styles.
they're rock solid.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the point with the grant, what are you gonna apply for? So,
Yeah, there are.
different towns probably want different types, so.
There are, well, that was the interesting thing. I found out a lot when I did that survey on the Metro. There are companies that Cycle Safe and is a good one, and D-Row bike racks. There's a bunch of, there's one out in Portland, Oregon. He's making racks where he's actually got steel cords coming up through the thing so that you can absolutely lock your bike to the rack because it's all part of the system. You know, just apply the lock and boom.
Okay, I certainly will duly note your enthusiasm, Terry. I certainly don't disagree with you. You know, I might have taken a little less time to bring up new business, but that's your way of doing it. And I appreciate all the comments you've made. I just think we'll have to, you know, take it one step at a time, and maybe when Dan and Bruce are here, we can have more discussion on it.
Well, what do we discuss about a map? How do we go about doing that? I mean,
We
is
do
there
have the map.
Well, but how do we go about updating it with ideas and putting it online and that? I mean, is there something that, I mean, do we have to wait for 3 months for our next meeting, or is there something we can do in the next, say, July or August to kind of sit down and do some doodling and saying, hey, what about making this a bike route? And get maybe 8 or 10 standard bike and running routes, because I know everybody likes Western Avenue, to run on Western Avenue. That would be nice to make it an official run path. It's part of the Labor Day Dash. And there's other places that we could sit down and say, hey, let's look at this map, and could this be a bike route? It may also help us by going to county and saying, hey, you're on our bike path plan and you're not holding up your end of the bargain, so come on, let's get with the program here. Budget some money for Bartlett.
Well, as far as extra meetings, my plate is full, Terry. I have no extra time to have extra meetings. Now, you can talk with the other members if they want to have a informal meeting of some sort and come up with things. That's up to the members involved. If Joe and Bruce and Dan and you want to get together and have a meeting, I have no objection. I simply don't have the time to do it.
Just going to caution you, we are subject to the Open Meetings Act, so you cannot get more than you have to have less than a majority of a quorum to discuss business at a public meeting, because this is a public meeting, so
I think he's saying that they can.
just kind of
they can run
informal.
without him, correct?
What's that?
Have a meeting without you is what it sounds like.
Without me,
But it
absolutely.
would still be a public meeting that we
Yeah,
would.
there's
Still have to
there's
publicize
5
it.
members, so 2 can call a
Right.
meeting, and 3 is a quorum, so what is?
But you can't have 3 people speaking on the same thing at the same time.
Well, other than- but if we
Just
make
have
it,
a committee meeting who's not.
You can't have a normal committee meeting that's not open meeting.
well, it can
It
be
would
open.
an open meeting is what he's saying. We
Yeah,
would.
and you are also guided by the ordinance that created this committee that says they meet 4 times a year. I mean, that's what we're,
What the ordinance says, 2 or more can call a meeting at any time. We're not restricted to just those 4 meetings. We can call additional meetings.
You
The only
could.
thing is if we have one, we need to publicize the.
you gotta have, right.
Hey, we are having a meeting so that, who knows?
That's where I'm
John
coming.
and Tom might bring all their bicycle friends.
No, that's where I'm coming from.
And then we might have 40 people in the audience here, which is nothing wrong with that.
And I'm gonna just say this is the busiest time of the year. Bike planning is not the only thing we do. We are this deep in development projects, GIS projects, public.
Well, that's okay. We can doodle on something so that.
You guys doodle and then bring it to us.
We'll-
Then we'll look at it.
We
That's
can
what
doodle, we can
wanna-
doodle, and then when you have a free moment and you say, oh, I think I'll work on that bike map. What do we have here? Holy cow, look at all this stuff these guys gave us. Are they crazy? Yes. We have a crazy lot of people who are anxious to get a bike map routes.
What I would agree with Terry about is the making sure as staff that we invite somebody specifically from the Park District Board to these meetings. If we can do that, that would be, I think, a good thing. I don't know who that would be, or who should come, and or that they could sit in on the dais as well, as far as I'm concerned, if that's possible.
If you did that, just from an official standpoint, we run stuff by the Park District all the time. I mean, it's just standard for us. They're involved in all of our plan reviews and all that. If you want them to come and be an official member in the capacity that I'm hearing it, that ordinance should change to have them designated as an ex officio member, which is kind of what we do. We have that in our Economic Development Commission with the chamber members and so forth, so.
From that perspective, we might be able to tie the Park District more into the committee meetings, and
Right.
I'm certainly not against that.
Okay.
And if we can do that, I'd certainly promote that as well.
Do we need some kind of motion to the village board to change the ordinance, or?
Well, staff can bring it.
Magic?
Let me talk to them, and then if they're, they can come, which I don't think they'll have a problem with, then we can just propose it as an ex officio. It's a change in the ordinance structure.
Because that takes us back to what Joe had mentioned.
Right.
The whole paths that we have very little control over, and that still need repairs, and if we could have somebody here at least being present with what's being discussed, that can take that information back to the Park District Board, I think that could be helpful.
We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, does the Park District have meetings? Do they have open meetings like?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do. So, but then when someone's here, they hear it. They
Right.
Public's comments and they hear it, so it does help.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
would.
all this work that Tyler's done was done in conjunction with the Forest Preserve and the Park District.
That'd be great. Or maybe even the Forest Preserve people would have somebody who would want to come to the meetings as well. I don't know how we would change the ordinance to incorporate more people like that, or ex officio, you said, or what was that? But the more people that at least get to hear and be involved, I think then potentially have the potential to change things.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to that. I want to do it in a fiscally responsible manner, and I want to have the money to be able to do it. I want to do it appropriately, and as long as if we can see changes that make sense, and if members of the community want to come together and come up with changes, we're always going to listen. Can't promise that we're going to move forward on it, but we certainly can listen as the money becomes more available, and we have accomplished the smaller goals of changing some of the paths and fixing some of the paths, then perhaps moving on to bigger things as we go along will make sense. That being said, any other comments before we adjourn this meeting? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been moved by Joe and seconded by Terry. Can we call the roll?
Joe Stacy,
Yes. Here.
Mark Yamaher,
Yes.
Terry Witt. Adjourned.